We often think that to be spiritual, we need a change of scene, that we need to change the location, our environment, and move to what we consider as a more spiritual environment. That's not true. What is required is change of self rather than a change of scene, which means a change of attitude, a slight shift in the way we look at things. So what is the shift that we're looking for is the question. First of all, primarily, we need to move away from our resentments. Every one of us is full of resentment, something or the other from the past that we carry over into the present and ruin our future as a result of that. All of us have something or the other to crib about, to complain about. One person says, my parents didn't educate me. Another lady the other day said, I don't know why my parents got me married to this fellow. Now that's over and done with 40 years ago. There's no point talking about it now. Then all kinds of things. You're resentful for what people have done or not done to you. The point is, it's all in the past. Whatever it is, however justified you may be, it's all in the past. You may have had a difficult childhood, you may have had difficult parents, you may have had conflict situations. But the thing to do is to let go. Because for the simple reason that it is not the situation that is bothering you, it is your mind and this deadly enemy of a mind that you have, which has the tendency to focus on one or two things that you have been deprived of. And even those one or two things that you believe you've been deprived of are imaginary. They're not for real. And because of that, you destroy your mind, you destroy your body. And that is why the Upanishad calls us all suicidal. So instead, shift your focus. The first sign of spirituality is to understand that I have been totally ungrateful. And I need to take a look at the millions of things that I've been blessed with right now, here. As long as you're looking at your resentments, as long as you're full of resentment, you can't see, you're totally blind to the positives that are in your life. Therefore, the first thing is to count your blessings. Be grateful for what you have and get into what is known as payback mode. You get this irresistible urge to pay back to every single element that has contributed towards your welfare. And this is the first sign of spirituality. As Charles Dickens says, reflect upon your present blessings, of which every man has plenty, not on past misfortunes, of which all men have some. It's a beautiful statement. So this is the beginning of spirituality. The next thing is, how do we maintain the thought of the higher in and through our normal everyday activities? That is most important. It's not how much of the lecture you absorb between 6:30 and 8 that matters. What matters is, to what extent are you able to keep your thought on the lofty ideals while you're going through your normal everyday activities? So, Vedanta brilliantly has put forth ideas, principles that we can apply in our normal everyday activity. How do we do that? Let's take a look at perception. We see, hear, taste, smell, touch. And the tendency is, when you like something, the tendency is to indulge in it. Have more, and more, and more. And the problem with that is, with every repeat experience of the same, your enjoyment reduces. So as a result, you're having more of everything, but the enjoyment is getting diminished to such an extent that eventually you lose it completely. Instead, he says, this is the Indian lifestyle, before every enjoyment, sense enjoyment, the custom was, it was inbuilt in the Indian psyche, that first you offer it to the Lord and then enjoy it. And it made a huge difference. So whether you were eating food or you had bought a new set of clothes for yourself, when the ladies bought new saris, they used to first put a little kumkum on the edge, offer it to the Lord, and then wear it. And that kind of stems the indulgence. Whether positive or negative, if you focus your attention on the higher while the perception is going on, number one, if it's positive, you don't indulge in it, and don't get lost in it. Number two, if it's negative, it doesn't affect you. So this goes on. There's a prayer before a meal, there's a prayer at every stage of life, whether it's the first morsel of food that you put in your mouth, or the first day of school, or the last day of school, the day you get married. Everything is permeated by a prayer, a worship. And this shift in attitude, so you can go ahead and enjoy the world to whatever extent you want. There's no limit, there's no taboo. The Gita doesn't ask us not to enjoy. They say, enjoy and enjoy as much as you want. But in and through that enjoyment, just think of that divine power that is enabling all this. So this is as far as perception goes. From indulgence, you move to remembering that divine grace. Next comes action. Every one of us is blessed with a unique talent, an extraordinary gift, something that we bring to the world, something amazing that we bring to the world. Now, the moment you are aware of your talent, one person is a musician, another person is an artist, a painter, third person can heal disease, so on and so forth. We all have our talents. The moment you understand that you have this talent, the temptation is, most of us are tempted to leverage it, use it, only for personal profit. So if you're an engineer or an architect or an IIT, IIM, whatever it is, you only think of, how can I use this talent to make more money for myself, to get more name, fame, etc., etc. This leads to mediocrity. You go up to a certain point, it's self-limiting. And after that, you plateau, you remain there. If you want to take that one step forward, you have to not gain more knowledge, you have to just shift your attitude. And the shift in attitude is, you dedicate yourself, you set aside personal profit, you set aside what you're going to get out of it. And say, all right, let me dedicate myself to this very field, to this endeavor. So a cricketer says, every time I go out and play cricket, let me just play the best cricket that I can. A painter says, let me give of my best to this painting. A musician, every time he performs, just gets into the spirit of the music. And have you seen outstanding musicians? They go on stage, they're oblivious of the audience. They shut their eyes and just start singing. This leads to excellence. But perfection comes when you understand, you're deeply aware of the fact that this talent is not yours, it's God-given. It's given to you by some divine power. And every time you act, you offer this as ahuti, your offering, to the Lord who gave you this talent in the first place. And then you reach perfection. These are rare, outstanding people in the world. For instance, Michelangelo, when he was painting, 4 years of grueling hard work he put into painting that ceiling. And apparently he spent 4 months painting one remote corner of the ceiling that nobody would see. So his well-wishers told him, he says, why are you wasting your time painting something that nobody is going to see? He said, no, you're mistaken. God will see it. And it is this that attracts hundreds and thousands of people to see that ceiling. It's not what he's painted, it's the spirit in which he painted that makes it so outstanding. So, as against this, the other day we read in the papers of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And they say it is because of a perfectionist attitude. It's not that. It is a highly egoistic attitude that whatever I do must be perfect. That's a whole world of difference between what we are speaking of and this obsession. It's not obsession for perfection, it's obsession with yourself that creates all these mental disorders. Then comes emotions. At the emotional level, the Vedas, Vedanta, the Indian culture has a great deal to contribute to the world, because today people are talking about team spirit, people are talking about globalization, people are talking about one family. The whole world is one family, which originated in the Vedas. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole universe is my family, it's one family. The ability to see unity in diversity is inherent in the Indian psyche. And therefore it is that historically, if you go back into Indian history, you find, even today, you find that the rarest form of Christianity is practiced only in India, nowhere else. Zoroastrianism is existent only in India, nowhere else. And people of different mindsets, different religious faiths, different cultures, different races came together and blended. And today we are one large, multilingual, multiracial, multi-religious society. How does this spring? The basic difference is in your approach. Are your emotions exclusive or are they inclusive? Apparently General Kereopa, who then later became Field Marshal, in the first war with Pakistan, his son, who was in the Air Force, was taken captive by the Pakistanis. And President Ayub Khan at that time sent a message to General Kereopa saying, your son is with us, and how would you like us to treat him? Imagine, here is a man who is being put to that test. His own son is a prisoner of war. And President Ayub Khan is reaching out to him, naturally, because he's a general in the army. He sent back a message promptly, without thinking twice. He said, all our soldiers that you have taken prisoner are my sons. Treat them all well. What a fabulous statement. It's not just publicity, it's not for public relations. This is what actually happened, and therefore it is that General Kereopa became the Field Marshal. Then comes intellect. The most important attribute we need to develop is clarity of thinking. In the name of religion, in the name of spirituality, we only get more confused. And out of that confusion, everything you do becomes wrong, because the basics are not straight. Spirituality gives you the light of knowledge by which everything becomes crystal clear to you. What is this clarity? There was this Indian in Dallas, a Mr. Nair, who went there and made a lot of money for himself and decided to buy a brand new sports car, a Porsche. And so he got into it from the showroom and he was driving, and it is such a beautiful car. You can't drive it at 40 kilometers an hour. So he took off. And he was driving at a high speed. So a policeman, a cop car behind him, started tailing him. And suddenly looked in the rear view mirror. He was having a good time, enjoying himself. And he saw these lights. So he decided, he says, I'm in a racing car, I'll beat the cop. He thought he was in India, but he couldn't. And then eventually he had to stop. So the policeman there came up to him and said, you know, my shift gets over in the next 15 minutes and tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So I really don't want to book you. If you give me a good enough reason why you were racing away from me, I'll let you go. This is quick-wittedness, this is clarity of thinking. So he came up with an answer. He says, last week my wife ran away with a policeman. And when I saw you in my rear view mirror, I thought that policeman was coming to give my wife back to me. So you need to be quick-witted. Your intellect has to be alert. To give the right answer, the cop said, have a good day, and ran back, walked away. Then comes the subtle intellect. Again, that subtle intellect or conscience in most of us is dull. The spiritual path awakens it. Awakens it to... See, the problem with us is we really don't know right from wrong. We don't know what is the right action to perform. We don't know what is wrong. We don't know what to do. We don't know what we ought not to do. And in this confusion, we do the wrong things and meet with the repercussions. We don't know who our benefactors are. We mistake benefactors for enemies. We mistake enemies for benefactors. And so we get into a great deal of trouble. So the Gita or Vedanta, the spiritual path, helps us in all these ways. Now we move to verse 14.